This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Scheck. This year I've had the honor and privilege to serve as president of the Emory Public Interest Committee, or as we like to call it, EPIC. On behalf of EPIC, welcome to the 23rd Annual Inspiration Awards. EPIC is a student-run organization that promotes serving those in need and supports students seeking to build public service careers. Each year, EPIC focuses on engaging all Emory Law students through group volunteer activities in the community, organizing programs to inform students about the wide array of public interest career opportunities, and mentoring 1Ls interested in public service careers. Through EPIC, we hope to engage and encourage all Emory Law students to incorporate public service into their future careers. The Inspiration Awards is EPIC's most important event each year. Tonight, we honor the achievements of 3 public servants who have dedicated their lives to serving their communities and those in need. They inspire us to work harder for the causes we believe in, and they remind us that serving others is a responsibility we all carry as members of the legal and broader community. While the primary purpose of this ceremony is to recognize these 3 inspirational people, we are also here to support our students who are committed to public service. To help students kickstart their careers in public service, it is important that we provide them with the building blocks to serve. Every dollar we earn tonight will go directly to support students working this summer in otherwise unpaid public interest internships. As a recipient of an EPIC grant my 1L and 2L years, I can say that I would not have been able to work towards my career dreams in public service without the generous donations of all those who support EPIC. Currently in this room are dozens of past and future EPIC grant recipients. At the reception that follows this ceremony, I invite you to speak with these students, to ask them about their work, their passion, and their goals. Your donations and investment in these students will significantly shape the future careers of this cohort of Emory Law public interest lawyers. Thank you for joining us tonight and honoring these 3 attorneys who have devoted their lives to serve others. I would also like to thank our amazing Inspiration Awards co-chairs, Eliza Taylor, Joe Lenoff, Sam Riley, and Stephanie Bauer, the EPIC Advisory Board, and the Center for Public Service for making this night possible. And to everyone in this room, thank you for your time, attention, and donations in supporting public interest students at Emory Law. I'd now like to introduce Dean Hughes to offer a few words of welcome. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Good evening. I'd like to add my welcome to those earlier received to the 23rd EPIC Inspiration Awards ceremony. My name is Jim Hughes, and I'm the interim dean here at the law school. Tonight, as we honor several extraordinary public servants, we also take this opportunity to highlight the importance of public service, to celebrate recent public interest achievements here at Emory Law, and to rededicate ourselves to the high ideals of public service. For the past 4 years, Emory Law School's public interest activities have been coordinated by the Center for Public Service, which, among other things, advises students regarding public interest in government careers, assists those seeking postgraduate judicial clerkships, and presents a wide variety of programming and opportunities to engage students with pro bono volunteer projects and to expose them to a vast array of public service career opportunities. The center is led by Assistant Dean for Public Service, Rita Sheffy. And you should just know that in 2018, October of 2018, Rita was honored by the Atlanta Legal Aid Society with the 2018 Extraordinary Pro Bono Service Award. Students volunteering with Emory Law's International Refugee Assistance Project, or as we call it, IRAP, were recognized twice in the past year. In the spring of 2018, with a Graduate Organization of the Year award by the Emory Office of Student Involvement, Leadership, and Transitions, and in the fall, IRAP was recognized as a National Chapter of the Year among 31 organizations nationwide. This follows IRAP's Law School Excellence in Access to Justice Award from the State Bar of Georgia last year. Through IRAP, Emory Law students work with lawyers from King and Spalding to represent refugees from around the world who otherwise would not have legal representation to navigate an increasingly complex resettlement system. Emory Law's volunteer clinics also continued to flourish and expand last year. The Volunteer Clinic for Veterans launched a new wills project with attorneys from Duane Morris and the Home Depot Legal Department. To date, they have prepared more than 40 wills for veterans through 2 clinics at the VA Medical Center. Emory LGBTQ Services, launched in 2018, continues to provide much-needed legal assistance to LGBTQ individuals in the metro Atlanta area, connecting pro bono attorneys and volunteer law students with low-income LGBTQ clients who have needs that are not otherwise met. And in August, with the generous support of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, Emory Law launched Emory Immigrant Legal Assistance. On the second Wednesday evening of each month, Emory Law students assist immigration attorneys in providing legal advice to immigrants and refugees. This is just the most recent of many activities engaged in by Emory Law students to support immigrants in our community. Of course, the crown jewel of our public interest operation is the Emory Public Interest Committee, the student group that has so ably created this special evening. Thanks to your generosity and the generosity of others, last year, EPIC awarded 26 summer stipends totaling over $128,000. I'm also pleased to report that Emory Law's Loan Repayment Assistance Program, which provides financial assistance to alumni engaged in a variety of public interest activities, assisted 27 graduates last year and totaling more than $62,000 in forgivable loans. I'd like to thank our EPIC Inspiration Awards co-chairs, Joe Lenoff, Eliza Taylor, Stephanie Bauer, and Sam Riley for their attention to detail in creating this event tonight. And I'd also like to acknowledge Brandon Scheck for being EPIC president last year. I'd also like to thank Rita Sheffy, Blakely James, Amy Marcellana, and other members of the Emory Law School staff for aiding the EPIC leaders in putting together tonight's program. I'd like to add my personal congratulations to each of tonight's recipients, about whom you'll hear more later. I take a special joy in welcoming back my longtime colleague, former interim dean, and Emeritus Professor of Law, Frank Alexander. Special. I'd like to acknowledge Mark and Rebekah Wasserman for their generous gift to support an award to a third-year student for outstanding commitment to public service. Now I'd like to welcome Emory Law alumna Amanda Monaco, class of 2017, and an assistant public defender in Augusta to present the Mark and Rebekah Wasserman Award.
I first met Brandon Scheck when he was a first-year law student here at Emory. At the time, I was a 3L and EPIC president. After formal introductions, we immediately began discussing the Georgia Innocence Project and my previous work there. Rather than asking me, as so many other 1Ls did, "How do I apply?" Brandon casually but confidently stated, "I can start volunteering there whenever you need some help, even if it's a few hours a week." And just like that, Brandon and I volunteered together on one particularly complex case at Georgia Innocence Project each week after class. We continued volunteering together for the entire year. Beyond working on the case, Brandon joined the Georgia Innocence Project at a variety of formal fundraisers, even the Oakhurst Porch Festival, where we stood outside on the sidewalk with a folded table, passing out flyers and educating the passersby on wrongful conviction. Brandon quickly demonstrated his unwavering passion, reliability, and devotion to post-conviction advocacy. He also became my very good friend. Brandon eagerly sought out public interest opportunities within the Emory student community. He became the student director for Emory's Student Legal Services and student defender for Emory Law's Conduct Court. He served as 1L representative for EPIC, then vice president, and now EPIC's president. In our local community, Brandon has volunteered at Covenant House, cooking meals for homeless youth, and organized on-campus clothing drives for local shelters. In his other spare time, Brandon served as a tutor and a mentor for youth in confinement at the Atlanta Youth Development Campus. His accomplishments do not end within the bounds of campus or the city of Atlanta. Brandon has successfully balanced the many challenges of being a law student while pursuing his professional and personal goals of freeing the innocent. A few of his numerous accomplishments: the 2017 Justice John Paul Stevens Public Interest Fellow, interned for the Innocence Project of Florida, where he wrote the project's first persuasive memorandum to the state attorney detailing the actual innocence of a client. Interned for the Capitol Defender's Office, where he assisted with death penalty cases and a juvenile appeal on the issue of life without parole. Intern with the Prisoners' Rights Project of New York City, where he advocated for incarcerated people facing inhumane conditions of confinement. And of course, a long-standing intern with the Georgia Innocence Project. And I could go on. Even after all this, 3 years later, I have not forgotten Brandon's initial offer to volunteer with me. All his achievements since then demonstrate Brandon's genuine and unwavering commitment to public service. For Brandon, active service for those in need has always been just as important, if not more important, than the day-to-day academic life as a law student. His extensive contributions for public service within Emory and beyond do not go unnoticed. His devotion and passion have inspired his peers to give their all to their individual causes and raise the bar for all Emory Law public interest students. I am so proud of Brandon for his lasting legacy at Emory. As the 2017 recipient for this award, it is an honor to introduce my colleague and my dear friend, Brandon Scheck, as the recipient of the 2019 Mark and Rebekah Wasserman Public Service Award.
Hi everyone, it's an honor and a privilege to be here today, and I especially want to thank the Dean and Assistant Dean of Emory, because they've been a part of my transaction here. My name is Clarence Harrison. I'm the Georgia Unsung Project first Azadeh, where I was falsely incarcerated. I'm here to present an award to a young man that became very important to me in my life when I have any hope at all. And all I had as far as believing in anything was to receive a letter every other month or so. And then it became regular after so many corresponding. At Georgia Unsung Project, I had the opportunity to write to the Georgia Unsung Project and ask them for assistance. And at Georgia Unsung Project, they have interns who correspond back with the inmates that's been incarcerated. And these inmates will write back and tell you how your case was going. And by me being incarcerated for almost 18 years, being told repeatedly that I would never get out, and had given up any hope at all. But the letters that I read kept encouraging me, telling me that there is hoping that I'm gonna get out, they got this and got that. It became something I depended on. And a lot of times I was kind of harsh writing back to the intern, but they always come, wrote back, always something very good to say. And I realized something. I said, out of all these lawyers and things out there, I said, I got to put in solid on this this intern, and how important it was. And to this day, I believe that the interns are the most valuable thing that they are, because I think that they do us all the work that lawyers just take the credit for. You know? But not only did this inmate also did help get me released from prison, and once I was out of prison, this intern also helped me transcend back in society, trying to get adept to things, because I didn't even know how to use a cell phone. And to the day, I still don't. I'm still using flip phones. But he did. He helped me try to get my license stuff, found a job and thing. And he even made me famous by taking a picture with me when they put on Emory thing. So I appreciate that. But I just want to know, it is a privilege for me just to be here to present this award to him, because he have done so much for me in my life. And just to be here to do something for him, I take pride in, because he's my hero. I'd like to present Jason Costa.
Thank you. Thank you, Clarence, for those touching words. Ooh, should have warned me that you were going to do that. Would have been better prepared. Epic students, I want you to know that you can really help people. Not that many years ago, a bunch, but not that many, I was literally sitting where you were sitting. I was a 1L at the law school. I went to Epic meetings. I heard the speakers. I did Inspiration Awards. And I would like to be able to tell you about the life-changing speech I heard the night of my first Inspiration Awards. But I was outside, and I was like setting up tables and taking wine and getting name tags. But I can tell you that my first summer in law school, I got an Epic summer grant. And when I showed up to my public interest job for the very first day, I got my first ever client, and it was a gentleman named Clarence Harrison. Now, if that was not an affirmation that you can really help people, I don't know what is. And when I came back to the law school, second year, worked with Epic a ton. Second summer, I got an Epic summer grant. And I went to work at the DeKalb County Public Defender's Office. And I saw attorneys and investigators and interns and staff working every single day to really help people. And I thought, that's what I want to do. So I graduated, I took the bar, and I went to work at the DeKalb County Public Defender's Office, and I've been there ever since. Now, a few years ago, about 6 years ago now, I also got an additional opportunity that was amazing to me, which was to teach as an adjunct here at the law school. Because some of the best lawyers I've ever met were lawyers and teachers here at the law school. And I have enjoyed that so very much. It has been such a privilege and a pleasure to be able to teach at the law school. And to me, it's been another way to really help people, but in a different way. I'd like to think that I'm shaping the next generation of lawyers. Example, Brandon Scheck took my class last year. Today he won this award. Coincidence? I'm kidding. He paid no attention in class, so it had nothing to. I'm kidding. I kid. But I think for any public defender, our primary focus is on our clients. And when I tell you as students that you can really help people, I want to make that concrete. I have been a public defender for 12 and a half years. In that time, I have closed, not touched and passed on to someone else, I have closed 5,812 cases. That is 5,812 people. Picture the 3L graduating class from Emory Law this year, standing on the quad. Now picture every member of every graduating class from Emory Law for the last 20 years. That's still not 5,812 people. And these are people that my clients are at some of the most challenging and difficult emotional points in their lives. And some I have done a lot of work, some I haven't had as much work to do, but I will tell you that for every single one of them, they were better off having me there to help them. Now, I'm not trying to sound immodest. I have my colleagues who are here who do that work just like I do. And I'm also not trying to say it's not a lot of work, because it absolutely is. But I've also found that as you really help people, people also really help you. And people have really helped me. I have my mom and my dad, my brother, sister-in-law here, my dear friends here, and my friends at Emory who have not only helped me, but been champions of public interest. Frank Alexander, Robert Shapiro, Sue McAvoy, Kay Levine, Rita Sheffy. Am I forgetting? They are all there to help you. But I will say I could not be where I am without the help of two people specifically, and I have to recognize them. One is my mentor and friend, Claudia Sari, who those of you who know should, yes, please. Those of you who know that she should be getting this award in lieu of me, but that's a rules problem. I'll take that up with the committee later. But she has been not only a mentor, but a shining example of what a passionate and zealous and exceptional public defender can be. And the other is, of course, my wife, who is the most enthusiastic and supportive and wonderful person I know and who I love very much. When you help people, when you really help people, people really help you. I started out talking about my first and, don't tell, but probably favorite client. I want to close by talking about a much more recent client. A couple weeks ago, I was in court, and I stepped in the interview room to meet a client for the first time, and she spoke Spanish. So it was me and the interpreter, the client, and her 8-year-old son was in there. And the prosecution wanted community service, and I was concerned about how childcare would work. So I asked about it. And she said, no, my son's in school. He just really wanted to come see what court was like. So I said, oh, you want to see court? And he was kind of shy, he didn't want to talk. So I got all the information about her case, and I wasn't delighted with the way the police had handled this case. So I did what public defenders do. I went to the prosecutor, and I fought for my client. And I said this, and I said that, and we went back and forth, and we finally reached a resolution. And she gave me the paperwork, and I went back into the interview room. And before I talked to my client, I turned to the little boy. This is a true story. I don't know this sounds like it's made up, but it's a true story. I turned to the little boy, and I said, through the interpreter, okay, you've been here all morning. You've been watching court. I'm your mom's lawyer. What's my job? And he thought about it, and he said, ayudar, right? I speak enough Spanish to know ayudar literally means to help. And I said, that's right, to help. And today I get to help your mom because I got her case dismissed. And the mom starts crying. The interpreter starts crying. I, retelling the story, I'm supposed to pretend like I was stone-faced. No. I do the work I do because I'm passionate about it and I'm emotionally invested in my clients, so I start tearing up. The little boy looks confused and he's like, isn't this how this is supposed to work? I don't know. Whether it was that client or my very first client or the 5,800 or so in between, I have been able to really help people. EPIC students, you can really help people. And I really hope that you will. I'm so honored by this award. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Spears, and I'm here to present the next award. Dean Hughes and members of the Emory Public Interest Committee, I am pleased to introduce Azadeh Shahshahani, the recipient of this year's award for outstanding leadership in the public interest. Azadeh Shahshahani was born in Tehran, Iran, 4 days after the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which overthrew the US-installed Shah of Iran. She lived in Iran in the midst of war, a war between Iraq, backed by the United States, and Iran. Growing up in the midst of a war that lasted 8 years shaped her understanding of the human hardships caused by war and social destruction. And she saw firsthand the forces that drive people to leave their homes and families behind. And when, at 15, her family immigrated to the United States, she experienced what it is like to be an immigrant in this country. Although she comes from a family filled with medical professionals, and although she was even admitted to the University of Michigan Medical School, instead, she chose law school and graduated from the University of Michigan School of Law in 2004. After moving to Georgia in 2008, and I hope I have the date right, she came here to head up the National Security Immigrant Rights Project housed at the ACLU of Georgia. Once doing so, she quickly became a leader, not only in Georgia, but also throughout the country, in advocating for the rights of immigrants, including the undocumented. She has put into practice the teaching of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who, writing from the Birmingham jail, wrote those words that many of us now know by heart. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This lesson could not be more important today. It could not be more important for the work that she does. It could not be more important for the work that we all must do. She has consistently organized for humane treatment of all persons in custody by federal, state, local officials because of their immigration status. Her efforts have included bringing lawsuits, some of which I've volunteered for and served on behalf of families whose loved ones have died in ICE custody for lack of medical care. Her efforts have included leading demonstrations in Atlanta and elsewhere to stop the unlawful and unauthorized detention of immigrants accused of no crime other than their status. And she has written untold numbers of reports and articles, including law review articles, exposing and explaining the human rights abuses brought about by our country's policies. Ms. Shahshahani is known to her friends and her opponents alike as fearsome, tireless, and insightful. The goals to which she aspires should inspire us all. The legal skills which she employs to advocate and agitate are skills which we must all use for the common good. She is a patriot for international human rights and a patriot for us all. Please welcome my friend, Azadeh Shahshahani.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank Brian for his kind remarks and for his continuous support throughout. He has graciously served as my mentor since I came to Atlanta in September 2007. I literally did not know any other lawyer, and everyone pointed to Brian, and he's really been a great inspiration for me. And I'm truly fortunate to have such a great example of selfless service to look up to. I also wanted to thank the Emory Law School community for your support throughout, particularly Dean Sheffy, Professor Schaff, Professor An-Naim, Sue McAvoy, and Silas Allard, who, as I never failed to remind him, used to work with me when he was a law student. Last but not least, I wanted to thank my husband, Meysam Govanlu, who's here tonight on the front row, and he has basically for putting up with me for the past 17 years. So I went to law school to do human rights work, but the conception I had of that work was to be based somewhere like Geneva or The Hague and focusing specifically and solely on international human rights work. But when I moved to North Carolina right after graduation in 2004, because of family circumstances, far from Geneva, I started looking for human rights opportunities, and I realized that there is a large Muslim and Middle Eastern community. And this is at the height of the post-9/11 government crackdown on Muslim communities, so I was expecting to find some type of a project, legal project or organization to help cater to the needs of the community, but there wasn't anything. So I decided to start something myself, and I approached the ACLU of North Carolina with the idea for this project. And as I worked with community members who were approached by the FBI, literally because they were Muslim for no other reason, and as I worked with community members who were facing rampant religious discrimination as well as all types of other abuse, I came to realize that this was very much human rights work. In 2007, after I moved to Georgia and started with the ACLU of Georgia, the executive director of the Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, Adelina Nichols, came to our office and explained to us a human rights crisis that was unfolding in the community. Basically, Latino community members disappearing off the streets and being arrested and going to the DeKalb jail when they were facing really horrible conditions. This was the spark for me to start a project with the ACLU of Georgia, continuing the work I was doing in North Carolina, but with a broader focus also working with immigrants and Muslim communities. And it should come as no surprise to any of us that this human rights crisis has continued unabated to this day. What our communities have faced in the past 2 years has been extremely difficult, but we have been here before. Like in 2011 with the passage of the Omnibus Georgia Anti-Immigrant Law, which was designed to keep our communities in a state of terror. But instead, we stuck together, fought back, and did not give up. In fact, despite the repressive laws, we have been able to achieve victories through organizing, grassroots organizing, coupled with legal support. We have been able to convince Georgia localities, 7 to this state, to stop colluding with ICE despite the state anti-sanctuary law. We have been able to get this city, the city of Atlanta, to stop its collusion with ICE and stop detaining immigrants at the city jail. We have been able to defeat anti-immigrant state legislation despite the long odds. But as we know, our work is far from finished. As we speak, deadly immigration detention centers in Georgia remain open, including the Stewart Detention Center, where 3 immigrants have died in less than 2 years, 2 of them by suicide after being placed in solitary confinement for prolonged periods. Detained immigrants at facilities such as the Stewart are being forced to work for sub-minimum wages, meaning between $1 to $4 a day, while the prison corporations running these facilities are making millions of dollars of profit. Undocumented youth are being denied the right to attend selective institutions of public higher education in Georgia, regardless of their academic merit. Undocumented immigrants in Georgia and across the South are denied the right to access water and utilities. We're talking about basic human rights. So we need all of you to join us in order to fight back against these egregious human rights violations and win victories for our communities. To this day, one of the most inspiring moments for me since January 2017 was the day I went to the Atlanta airport after the Muslim ban had just gone into effect. This is a ban affecting my own community, by the way, Iranian Americans. And I saw thousands upon thousands of people who were there to say an emphatic no to injustice. I was especially proud to see that hundreds of our fellow lawyers quickly organized themselves and showed up at the airport to represent community members who were detained. This, for me, exemplifies the spirit of unified resistance that can help us win in the face of oppression. And I will leave you with the words of the freedom fighter Fannie Lou Hamer. Nobody's free until everybody's free. Thank you, and see you in the streets.
Good evening. It is my profound honor and privilege to present to you my professor, my mentor, and my friend, Frank Alexander, the Lifetime Commitment to Public Service Award on behalf of EPIC. In the few moments I have to sum up the contributions of a scholar, an activist, and leader, a lifetime commitment to public service, I'm not going to focus on Professor Alexander's profound institutional leadership, his 37 years of excellence in teaching in this building, his founding in, of course, partnership with many of centers like the Center for the Study of Law and Religion, or the Center for Community Progress, a national nonprofit serving distressed communities around the country in its 10th year. I'm not going to focus on his role as interim dean a few years ago, where he served not only this community, but also welcomed students from New Orleans who were rendered academically homeless after the devastation of Katrina. I won't focus on his role as a fellow at the Carter Center, focusing on affordable housing for the most vulnerable members of our city, of our state. I'm also not going to focus on Professor Alexander's leadership and contributions in the arena of real property law, on the relationship of land to people, in a country where that system is tied to the history and legacy of slavery and to the legacy of Jim Crow. I won't talk too much about his commitment to improving and elevating and deepening the field of practice on the topic of real property. Scholarly articles too numerous to list. State legislation drafted in almost a third of our states focused on equitable reuse of land. The creation of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the Homeless here in Georgia. The fights against predatory lending. Instead, I'd like to lift up a few special moments, contributions that Professor Alexander has made in his life of public service that don't appear on a CV. Service and decisions that I have witnessed and experienced from Frank over the years that are contagious, that are risky, and that inspire people like me to do more and to do better. I think some of those moments perhaps are the lifeblood of public service. Moments like time spent at lunch counters in the 1960s in North Carolina. Moments where Professor Alexander in the 70s chose to take his Harvard degree and join a law firm in the South that was welcoming to women and to people of color, long before diversity and inclusion committees were a thing. Decisions like taking on clients like Miss Eva Davis of the former Eastlake Meadows, standing with her in the face of insurmountable resources pushing in a different direction, but a representation that lasted not only through litigation and negotiation, but all the way through to a few years ago when he brought gifts to her family when she passed. Moments like approving an excused absence from real property law by this Sarah Jane Turing several years ago because I informed him that I had to go make signs for an anti-war protest. Moments like later that afternoon when he showed up to the protest. And I don't have any confirmation, but I would bet quite a bit that his partner in life and in love, Joan, might have had something to do with that. Moments where he has decided again and again to share privilege, to share power, to share relationships, to share access to opportunity with young lawyers, with activists outside the status quo, outside the mainstream. Perhaps one of the most emblematic Frank Alexander attributes is his wonderful voice that those of us familiar with this third floor can recall hearing when he gets a phone call. Thousands of hours of phone calls with former students, with colleagues, with friends, calling him when they're seeking to make critical decisions to maybe change the world. A voice that answers the phone and takes the time and seems to breathe energy, hope, and conviction into folks facing tough decisions about whether to say no to the easy thing and yes to the hard one. Those young lawyers, old, everyone in between, confronting disappointment, fatigue, even despair in the face of injustice. I've watched, experienced, seen Frank encourage so many of us to try again, to keep going, to try a new, perhaps more subversive angle, and to live in the hope that the combination of excellence and integrity and commitment, with that combination, just maybe transformational change toward justice is possible, and that the journey that we take there matters. Those moments, that time, that commitment, and hope, it matters so much, Frank. Perhaps the greatest gift of your public service thus far is that it is contagious. I can't wait to see what the next phase of your vocation and service leads you to. Thank you. It is my privilege to present you with this award.
We got to do. Throw it. Good.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. My student, my research assistant, my associate, my general counsel, my counselor, my co-author, my friend, thank you for such kind words. And thank you, EPIC, for this evening and for this honor, though in my case it's neither really not appropriate and certainly not deserved. But I am so honored to be in the presence of Jason and Azadeh for all y'all have done every day for so many in transforming lives and the world. I'm inspired by you. Thank you also, especially to the one who for the past decades has been my partner. The one who, if I have ever done anything right or kind or good or courteous, it's entirely because of her. It's my wife, Joan. She is the true north on my moral compass. Thank you, Joan. As you can see, she is seated with my students, who are far more devoted to her than they ever were to me. What is a miracle? How would you answer that? What is a miracle? I recently posed that question to some of our grandchildren. And the first one said to me, "Oh, Papa," that's what they call me. "Oh, Papa, a miracle is something that's wonderful." And I said, "Oh, yes." And then another grandchild said, "Papa, a miracle is something that's wonderful that we don't understand." And I said, "Oh, yes." And then a third said, "Papa, a miracle is something that's wonderful even though we do understand it." And I said, "Oh, yes." The law, the rule of law, is a miracle. The law, the rule of law contains our very highest aspirations for justice, for equality, for freedom, for liberty, for equity, for mercy, for redemption, our greatest dreams. Simultaneously, the law contains within it the profound recognition of our fragile, broken, vulnerable nature. The law knows that the human species, of all living species, is the only species that engages in random acts of violence, of terror, of racism, and of evil. The law holds simultaneously the very best and acknowledges who we are as humans. To paraphrase Reinhold Niebuhr, humanity's capacity for justice makes democracy possible. Humanity's capacity for injustice makes democracy necessary. The law is a miracle. The legal profession is itself a miracle. The legal profession is first and foremost a service profession. It is up to each of you, each of us, to decide who we serve and what we serve. But it is a service profession. As we serve clients, we seek to affirm the integrity of that client. But we never confuse our client's integrity with our integrity. We seek to affirm the client's dignity, but the client's dignity is not our dignity. We seek to hear and affirm the client's judgment, but the client's judgment is not our judgment. We make our judgments. We make our stands on our integrity and our dignity. And therein lies the miracle of the service profession. We are called to serve the clients and to serve the law. As a service profession, we are given the opportunity to serve the client and justice. In the opportunity for service lies the possibility for freedom. In the words of Blaise Pascal, let justice and power be brought together, such that whatever is just may be powerful, and whatever is powerful may be just. You are the third miracle. Each of you and all of you. As we go through our lives in the legal profession, We may, some of us, be so fortunate to engage in something that is truly transformative for society, for systems, for the law. When we do that, if we are so fortunate, we know that we don't do it individually. We do that only by virtue of standing on the shoulders of others who've been doing it much longer. But in the service of the legal profession, it's not those grand moments that characterize what happens each day. It's the moments like Jason talked about, of the tears. It is, for me, very much, as Sarah referred to, the time when I had spent 4 years working with the residents in the East Lake Meadows for the redevelopment of their housing project. And at the end of the day, they were being displaced, their houses were being demolished. We litigated. We argued that we had an agreement that they should not be displaced. We lost. As I left the courthouse to drive to East Lake Meadows, with tears in my eyes, wondering how I'm going to say to Ms. Eva, my client, that we lost, I sat with her at her little dining room table and said, Ms. Eva, I'm sorry, we lost. Ms. Eva looked at me and patted me on the hand and said, Mr. Frank, that's okay. We never really expected we would win at the end of the day. What mattered most to us is that you were here with us through the entire process. These days in this work, what we have is the opportunity to lean on the shoulders of others. We didn't come into this world alone. We don't go through this world alone. And that is the miracle of doing this kind of work. We have the opportunity not to do things for others, maybe sometimes, but most importantly, the opportunity to do things with others. And knowing that as we do this work, we always can do it by leaning on the shoulders of others. We are not alone in doing this work. That, to me, makes it such a miracle. Thank you, EPIC, for this wonderful evening and for this wonderful honor. Thank you all.
Well, it's at this time every year that we wonder if we're ever going to be able to reach or exceed the high bar that was set that year. And yet somehow the next year we seem to be able to do that. And I think this year we might well have set a new high bar. I hope you'll all please join me once again in congratulating all of our honorees this evening: Frank Alexander, Azadeh Shahshahani, Jason Costa, and Brandon Scheck. And I also think it appropriate to thank those who were presenters this evening, because without them and their tributes, it would not have been quite as special as well. Amanda Monaco, Clarence Harrison, Brian Spears, and Sarah Toring. Now, as Brandon opened this evening, as Brandon Scheck told you, honoring these folks is an important part of the evening, but raising money for summer grants is also an important part of the evening. And shortly, our co-chairs for this year's Inspiration Awards are going to give you the total that we've raised so far this year. But I also want to let you know that those of you who were inspired this evening, and I hope that was everyone in the room, if any of you are so inclined to contribute more to summer grants, I'll be happy to accept your cash or checks during the reception. And I also want to give you another opportunity, and that is, if you have, as you were sitting here tonight, if you have thought of colleagues and friends who would be appropriate honorees next year for our 24th annual Epic Inspiration Awards, we'll have some cards at the reception that you can jot down their names and drop them off at the table where the students will be selling t-shirts. And we'd be happy to have your nominees and consider those for the awards next year. Finally, tonight's event is primarily coordinated by our students who've done an absolutely phenomenal job this evening. And so I'm going to invite up our Epic Inspiration Awards co-chairs to come up and make a few remarks and give you the final tally and any final details about the reception tonight.
Hi everyone, my name is Eliza Taylor, and up here with me is Joe Linoff, Stephanie Bauer, and Sam Riley, and together we are the Inspiration Award co-chairs for this year. And I just want to start by thanking our amazing honorees. You all are incredible role models for us and examples of the attorneys that we can only hope to become someday. And I hope it's not too cheesy to say, but I, like many of us here, am truly inspired by what we've heard tonight. And to the sponsors, professors, and attendees in the audience, we truly thank you as well. Epic Grants would not be possible without your support. And we'd also like to thank our fantastic volunteers and future Epic Grant recipients. So thank you so much. Now, before we actually announce the total money raised so far this year, we're also proud to announce that as a result of the decades of the leadership of Professor Frank Alexander, Emory Law has created a dedicated summer Epic Fellowship in the Home Defense Program of the Atlanta Legal Aid Society. Thank you, Professor Alexander. And now, for the total money raised this year for Epic Grants, $120,000. Again, thank you to everyone. This wouldn't be possible without you. And we also hope that you'll join us for next year's Inspiration Awards, which will be held on February 4th, 2020. And now we're going to ask that the honorees, presenters, and also Epic eBoard stick around for pictures. But everyone else can now head downstairs for food, drinks at the reception. Students will point you in the right direction. And there are 2 elevators that can take you down there. And again, thank you so much.